Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a sunny and bright Nottingham. Hope you're well. And welcome to today's webinar. 10 ways that guarantee your website is different and stands out from the crowd. Now, one of the things you'll have noticed, if you've been on our webinars before, is that Dan is missing in action today. He's off poorly. So if you have any reason to email Dan over the next couple of days, just drop him a line and say, I hope you're feeling better, because he's a poorly bunny, is Dan today. But we have Abby. Abby is joins us on these webinars on a regular basis. And Abby's going to do the housekeeping before we get into today's content. So over to you, Abby.
Lovely, thanks Phil. Morning everyone. Yeah, I'm not Dan, clearly, but I will try and do my best with the glamorous assistant role today. So as you'll know, as Dan tells you every month, these sessions work really well with lots of engagement. So if you've got any questions, and hopefully you'll have lots, then please put them in the chat, put them in the Q&A. Phil will be using them to strategically have slurps of tea. So if you don't want him to die of dehydration this morning, then more questions the better. So yeah, I'll be picking those up at various points and there'll be plenty of time to answer them. So no question is silly. Somebody else will be thinking it. Please do put it in the chat or the Q&A. And if for whatever reason you can't hear us, you can't see us, if there's any tech issues at all, then just give us a shout and we'll do what we can to sort it out. Back to you, Phil.
Thanks, Abby. Yeah, I'm already on about my 5th cup of tea today. So always an excuse to have some more. You can never have enough tea, can you, in your life? Right, so let's dive straight into this content, shall we? What are we going to talk about today? In the next hour, we're going to talk about why is your website important? Why bother with all of this? Yeah, why not just tick a little box and why bother? There's a danger I might get on my soapbox on that point. And then some words of warning that when we're going to talk in terms of website design. A few of the things that we've seen over the past, what we've been going now, nearly 7 years at Yardstick. Some of the things that we've seen that aren't quite right. And therefore, we're going to do a few words of warning. And then we're going to get into the meat of the presentation where we're going to talk about the 10 ways guaranteed to make your website stands out from the crowd. Now, if I was in sales mode right now, I would point out the trophies behind me that Yardstick clients have won for their websites. So we've developed websites which have won Best Website of the Year at the Professional Advisor Awards 3 out of the last 4 years. And the year that one of our clients didn't win it, we had 4 in the top 10. But I'm not here to sell, so I won't talk about that. But what I will talk about is the need, like Abby says, for a bit of engagement from you guys on the call. Do ask questions, do give us feedback, share your experiences. And we'll talk about some websites as we go through. So just have a pen handy and a notepad so that you can note down the names of the companies that we talk about. And Abby, if we can put those names of those websites in the follow-up, that would be good, because obviously you can then go and have a look at some of the things that we talk about today in action. But where I wanted to start was just, let's go back to fundamentals a little bit and start thinking about, well, why bother? Why do we need a website in the first place? And why does our website need to be effective as opposed to just a little tick in a box? And the reason is very simple, at least in terms of generating new inquiries into a business. So every prospect, remember, a prospect is somebody who is thinking of taking financial advice, thinking of working with a financial planner, and is thinking that you are the expert that they need in their lives. Every prospect takes several steps on their journey to your door. And we at Yardstick call that the inquiry equation. The inquiry equation. And the inquiry equation is very simple. Awareness plus awareness plus online search plus due diligence equals the inquiry. So awareness is where somebody first becomes aware of you, the source. That might be a referral or recommendation from an existing client. It might be unbiased. It might be something simple like they've driven past your office. Then people will do an online search. And remember, they might have become aware of more than one advisor or planner. And therefore, they're doing the online search to do some due diligence, to decide who they get in touch with. And that online search and the due diligence generally includes a visit to your website. So some examples of that inquiry equation in action. I'm recommended to an advisor. I do a Google search because I have been recommended to a couple of advisors and I want to know whether to contact firm A or firm B. So I've got the recommendations, I do a Google search, and then I hit firms' websites. That then leads to me thinking, no, that firm is not for me, or yes, I'm going to make an inquiry. Might be a LinkedIn post. So some of the stuff that Abby's fantastic social team do here at Yardstick. Someone's written a LinkedIn post, it's engaged with somebody, they've clicked a link through to a website, they've taken a call to action. Really simple. Someone's driven past your office. So we've got a call, monthly marketing meeting with a client of ours later, and they've got a high street premises, beautiful looking building, and they get people driving past day in, day out. And when the time is right for them to take advice, they've seen that firm on the high street. They may have seen other stuff that they've done, but they then get in touch. So in that case, the inquiry equation is a drive past the office. A Google search may have then gone to a LinkedIn profile, and they then been to the website and then made an inquiry. But you can see on each of these three examples that the website is in the middle of it. It's so important. People are visiting your website on that digital journey to your door. And that means your website is so important. It's your shop window. It's where suspects, people who haven't made contact yet, make judgments about you, whether you are the right advisor or planner for them. People are judging you when they're on your website. And you have no right of reply. You can't suddenly pop up and say, no, you've drawn the wrong conclusion from what we've got on the website. You literally have no right of reply. It's a one-way street. And therefore, your website really is important and really has to work hard. As I say, it's your shop window, and it's where suspects make judgments about you. And it's where they take a turn left or right. Do they get in touch with you, or do they head off and get in touch with somebody else? So that is why your website is so important. Abby, have I seen a question coming?
Yeah, so somebody's asked, for currently employed advisors who are considering a move to self-employment over the next few years, how far in advance of their launch should a website or a digital marketing process begin? That's the question, isn't it?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. And I think what I'd say is, I would say it's slightly wider than that. So I would say you are trying to build, you should immediately be trying to build an online presence, demonstrating your expertise, who you work with, why people choose you, and also building an audience of loyal followers that you can then start marketing to when the time comes to set up your own business. Now, what you can do right now might be dictated by your current employer. So we've seen some advisors who are employed, but their employer allows them to have a micro blog site online, effectively an individual person's website. Content gets added to it, they push people to it via a newsletter. And if you talk to me offline, happy to provide some examples of that. We've seen some employers who are not comfortable with that, but are comfortable with the advisor building their presence on a social media platform. And the choice there is you hang out on the social media platform where your target audience hangs out, whether that's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, wherever. You hang around and you build an audience and a profile where the people that you want to talk to are hanging out. So I think, in summary, it depends on what your current employer will do. And the ideal time is to start now, building an audience and demonstrating your expertise to them. Really hope that helps. Happy to answer any follow-up questions there, either here or drop me an email afterwards. And Albie, if you could just check my email address in the chat, that'd be good. So That's why we need to bother. That's why a website is so important. Everybody stayed online while we were doing those 3 slides. So clearly, I'm hoping everybody agrees. Right, before we go into the 10 things that will make your website stand out, some words of warning. Now, these are based on us launching and developing over 200 websites. And the first thing I would say is that being effective is more important than being different. So we quite often get advisors, planners coming to us and say, right, I want my website to be different. That's fine, that's great. They always only focus on design. And there's a bunch of other stuff, as we'll see in a bit, that makes a website different and makes a website stand out. But they always only focus on design. And to make a website different, from a design perspective, you can absolutely do. But there are some things where actually it's different, but it impacts the user experience. For cars, for example, there's a reason why, generally speaking, a car has a wheel in each corner. Yeah. Because it's effective and it doesn't have 3 wheels. So we can be different, but we always absolutely need to remember the aim of the website. And if you can get to a point where your website stands out and it's still effective and you're in the middle of that Venn diagram, great. But I guess what I'm really saying is don't be different for difference sake if it means the website is less likely to achieve its aims. And that's why being different can be dangerous. Next, I like are 2 incredibly dangerous words when it comes to any form of marketing. Because what's far more important is I think our clients will like. I think our target audience will like. It isn't about you or us. It's entirely about your target audience. So I like is incredibly, or 2 incredibly dangerous words in marketing, in website design, in writing content. Just really try and avoid them and really try to look at everything you do through the eyes of your client or your potential client. And as we said earlier, it takes a lot more than just great design. It is where we're going to start, but it takes a lot more than just great design to make websites stand out from the crowd. So a few words of warning there. Effective always trumps different. Different can be dangerous. I like certainly 2 dangerous words. And although we're going to start there, because we can move on to 9 other things as well, it takes more than just great design to make a website stand out. Hope that makes sense. Right. Let's start talking about 10 things that will make a website stand out. So, first thing, whilst I've said it takes more than this, and it does, and we've got 9 other things, let's start with design, because that's where most people start. When they think about how to make a website different, most people think about design. And for me, a website is so important. And a website right now should have a shelf life of 5, 6, 7 years, really quite easily. So the return on investment is absolutely there. It's just not in doubt. And a bespoke website design helps to create interest, helps to create engagement, definitely does help a website to stand out from the crowd. But it also means that you can showcase all of these other things we're going to talk about. Whereas if you use a template design, there's a fair chance a lot of what we're going to talk about today, you cannot work into that template. So bespoke design allows you to showcase all this other stuff, create interest, create engagement, but don't be different for the sake of it. For example, let's say you were building a website to target octogenarian widows, so an older demographic. You would be different in that sector if you used a burger menu. You know those 3 lines that you see at the top? You would absolutely be different. But would it be effective? And would a more traditional navigation be effective? You would be different on your website if you didn't put pictures of your team on there. But is it going to be as effective? Absolutely, absolutely not. So don't be different for the sake of it. And remember, if you take one thing away from this webinar today, that to make your website stand out, it takes more than just design. And we've got a couple of yardstick designers on this website, and I absolutely love the work they do. Yeah, but the reason I love the work they do is because the design that they do, the bespoke design they do for every single website, takes into account all the other things that we're going to talk about today as well. So that's what I've got to say on design. Next, how else do we make websites stand out? Empathy. Empathy is so important. Last Thursday, I did a review of a financial advisor's website. And every section on the homepage, literally every section on the homepage, started with we or I. It was all about the firm and almost nothing about the client or the person visiting it. So what we've got to remember is why somebody is coming to your website. So suspects, and as a reminder, a suspect is somebody who has got a financial problem, financial aspiration. They think you can help, but actually they haven't made contact with you yet. So somebody's on your website because they have that financial problem or challenge. They think you can help. So what's better to show them? Are we better off showing them that you understand, that you're in the right place, and show them you're an expert at working with you? Or are you better off showing them you have a page about pensions, protection, investment, savings, auto enrollment? It's just dull. Really is dull and doesn't make you stand out. So one of the ways to stand out is by empathizing with the reason people are on your website. Show them that you understand them. Show them they're in the right place, and show you are an expert in working with people like them. And that will be so much more powerful than explaining that you deal with pension savings and investments, etc. So after this call, go and have a look at your website and see how much it empathizes. There's a few ways of doing that. You can talk about the types of people you work with, so people see themselves reflecting back. You can replay some of life's big challenges that you help people overcome on the homepage and on other pages. There's a bunch of ways to do it, but it's so important that you empathize with the reason people are on your site. Number 3, I think we've got some yardstick content writers on this call as well. I think we've got Adam and Eleanor on here. And whilst people focus on the design and people focus on images, we also need to give equal focus to the words on the website. And your content needs to be easy to read, both in the way it is written and the way it is displayed. It needs to be engaging. It absolutely needs to capture your tone of voice. And of course, it needs to communicate your key messages. So your key messages might revolve around people, not products, the benefits of planning, the benefits of retiring successfully, all sorts of things. But your content needs to be all those things. And you then need to have a think about who should write the content, whether it should be you, whether it should be somebody in your team, or whether it should be a professional copywriter. Now, I'm biased. We have complete skin in this game. And I always think it should be a professional copywriter who is under the same roof as the designer. Because when you get the copywriter and the designer working so closely together, you end up with perfect prose displayed beautifully. Whereas rarely is it the case that does happen, and there are exceptions, but it's rarely the case where an advisor planner has in their team someone who is used to writing really engaging what is effectively sales copy. Does happen, but it's unusual. So have a think about how well your content is read. Sorry, how well your content is written. How well it engages people, how well it's displayed. Does it capture your tone of voice? Does it capture your key messages? And whether it needs looking at again. Abby, is there anything come through the chat or the Q&A that we need to deal with?
Oh, I think you read somebody's mind there. Something literally just pinged in straight away. Somebody's asked, have you any experience of using AI tools to write copy? And I'm going to leave that one firmly with you.
We 100% have experience of using AI to write copy. I wouldn't suggest it's necessarily the best experience in the world. So my two tools that I would use for AI and copy would be Bard and ChatGPT. And I find them both, I prefer Bard than ChatGPT. That's partly because ChatGPT doesn't seem to access as many sources as Google does for pretty obvious reasons. And Bard is from Google, join those dots. So Bard is useful for research. I find it incredibly useful for research because it aggregates information from lots of sources. You absolutely need to double check your sources though. You have to ask Bard or ChatGPT to source any facts it gives you and then go and check them. Because I've seen some really, really dangerous examples of Bard saying X, Y, Z is true, and it's not. So I find Bard useful for research. I find Bard useful for filling in some blanks for me in an article and double checking that I think I've got everything right. I don't find it useful at all for writing copy. For me, it comes out right now, and who knows, it might change, but right now it comes out with really bland, middle of the road, neutral sales copy that will not engage, will not capture someone's individual tone of voice. There you go. I've done enough ranting about Bard and ChatGPT. It is useful, but I absolutely don't think it replaces anywhere near a good quality content writer who can capture your tone of voice. Albie, anything else there in the Q&A?
Yes, I mean, we know your answer to this one, but should your personality / culture show on the website, even though we're offering a professional service?
Let me think about that for a second. Yes, absolutely it should. Absolutely it should. Yes, you need to keep it professional at all times. But we need your personality to absolutely shine through on websites, social posts, etc. Because you need to create that connection with people. When I was an advisor, and you'll all have examples, those of you who are client-facing on this call. When I was an advisor, I had examples of where your clients would tell you really intimate things about their lives, often before they would tell their spouse. I remember a case where I had a client tell me he'd just been diagnosed with cancer, and he told me that before he told his wife or his family, because he wanted to check that he could say to them they were going to be okay if the worst happened. So people want that. You're going to create that connection, and you're going to work with your advisor or planner for months and years to come. And that connection starts online. So yes, I would get personal. I would get really personal. First website to go and have a look at after this call, go and look at the Smith and Wardle website, or the website for the Aspire partnership in Bristol. And there is some lovely photography on both of those sites. Really lovely photography. And then there's some personal pictures as well, where the team are showing off through imagery what they enjoy doing in their spare time. So yeah, I would get really, really personal. Hope that answers the question. Right, am I good to carry on, Abby?
Yeah, just a quick reminder, a couple of people have said in the chat that they've got to shoot off. They're enjoying it, Phil. It's not because you've done anything wrong. They've just got other places to be. But just asking if a recording of the webinar will be sent out. And yeah, absolutely. So later on this afternoon, I will send a follow-up email with the links that Phil's mentioned with a recording of the webinar. So don't worry if you've got to shoot off, and don't worry if you miss anything. That'll be in your inbox later today.
Mortally wounded. Right, let's move on. Number 4. So we talked about getting personal, and that's a great segue into this. Real people. It's absolutely essential that your website showcases 2 groups of real people. I'd call these heroes, and we call these guides. So heroes are your clients. Heroes are your clients. These are the people who get benefit from working with you. There's a number of ways you can showcase these. If you go and look at something like the Red Circle website with Darren Cook, you'll see we create a little postcard graphic with nice quotes from his clients and pictures that his clients had sent in and gave us proof to use. You go and look at go look at Smith & Wardle website, go and look at the Aspire website, and you will see videos of clients, real clients, talking about the benefits of working with the firm. And I do occasionally get a bit of pushback, often from larger firms, interestingly, where they say, oh, my clients won't go on video. I guarantee you 100%, if you ask the right clients in the right way, your clients will be happy to do videos, or enough of your clients will be happy to get a decent portfolios of videos on the website. Barriers to client videos are entirely in advisor planners' heads. Second group of people we should showcase on the website are guides. That is you and your team. And we'll talk about how we do that in a bit. But real people on your website, heroes, your clients, guides, you and your team. Incredibly important that we showcase these people from the homepage and throughout the website. Number 5, client videos. So we touched on that a second ago, didn't we? And Abby's put some examples of sites where we created client videos in there. Client videos are a great way to showcase your heroes. They help you demonstrate genuine expertise, because we'd have said on previous webinars that showing beats telling. Showing the value of what you do beats telling people about the value of what you do. And client videos are just a fantastic way of showcasing the value of working with you and getting somebody else to talk about your genuine expertise and how you have changed their life. Another example, Henwood Court's website, they've got some fantastic client videos that we did for them. And one of them, I can't remember which one, actually talks about how Nick's advice at Henwood Court has helped change his life. It's a great quote, it's lovely. It also helps you tick one of the other boxes, the second box we talked about empathizing with a visitor. Because again, you're replaying to a suspect the fact that you understand why they're there. Builds trust and rapport. And for me, of all the types of social proof, whether it's client surveys, online ratings and reviews, awards, PR, it is the most personal, because you are immediately creating a connection between the client and the person watching the video. It also, and we've got some stats as we work through that, it also is a great way of making your website different. So research we did, and we looked at all the websites of the firms in the 2022 New Model Advisor Top 100 survey, and we should have the 2023 results out pretty shortly. Only 31%, so 3 out of 10 firms, and these are generally bigger firms, not always, but generally. Only 3 out of 10 have got client videos on their website. So if you get client videos on your website, distribute them around the site. That's a great way of creating a point of difference between your website and somebody else's. Is there anything in the chat? I can see something popping up. Abby, do we need to deal with that?
I was just replying, but I will just say it out loud. Saves me a job. A couple of things. So Kerry had just asked if the videos on your website should have subtitles, and I was just popping a line in there to showcase our video library, because why not? Because yes, we would absolutely recommend. I hope you agree, Phil, that subtitle and transcripts have a massive impact, not just from an SEO value, but from an accessibility perspective, in terms of whether people prefer watching or reading your videos, whether that be a webinar or a client video. So yes, we would recommend that. But then a question for you, Phil, is should a website's primary function be highlighting services offered or promoting call to action?
I don't think it should necessarily promote services offered. I think it should promote the type of people you work with. So services might be financial planning, mortgage advice, investment planning, that sort of stuff. But actually, somebody is on your website because they have a specific problem. So this takes me back to the empathy point. So rather than being me, talking about the services offered, talk about them, their problems, and how you can help solve them. And by definition, when you talk about how you can help solve them, you are going to talk about some of the services that you offer. So I don't think I'd start with services. I think I'd start with what the person's issues are. That's terribly formal, doesn't it? But the reason they're there, and then weave into your answer the services that you offer. In terms of calls to action, absolutely, you should have calls to action on your website. I 100% agree with that, because you need people, or you want people who are the right fit to take those calls to action. We've got a bit more aggressive, maybe they're not the wrong word, a bit more proactive on calls to action recently. We started putting a few more pop-ups on advisor websites to promote webinars, guides, and that sort of stuff. But for me, calls to action, yes. Services, no. But answer the reason they're there. Deal with their issue and what they're there for. Hope that makes sense. Right. So we talked on number 4. We talked on number 4 about real people. Talked about heroes. Now I'm going to talk about guides. Now, your guides are you and your team. And it's really important that we do widen this out. I won't name and shame, but we all seen advisor planner websites where they have only the advisors on there and not the rest of the team. And that creates all sorts of issues, both internally and also with clients and prospects. And suspects, people, as I said earlier, people who are thinking of working with you, want to understand who they'll be working with and start to get to know them and start to create that connection. So for me, unless somebody doesn't want to be on there for a good reason, you should include everyone in your team on that website, from your chair down to your MD, if you're a bigger firm, down to the management team, the planners, the support staff, the dog. I'm quite a big fan of putting office dogs on websites, but it's me. So include everybody in your team on the website. That's in the team section. And then give everybody, every team member, their own sub page. So their own Abby Robinson page or Dan Campbell page, where we can really get personal. Going back to one of the questions earlier, really great imagery. So important. You get a photographer in, and we'll talk about this in a minute, a professional photographer in taking really good quality shots. An iPhone up against a wall is just not going to cut it. So great imagery. Talk about what your team member does on the Monday to Friday, what they do in work hours, what's their role. And don't be dry. Talk about what motivates them, their biggest wins, what gets them out of bed in the morning, why they come into work, why they choose to work for you. And then talk about what they do on the weekend. Again, creating that connection. A few spotlight questions. You often see these in sort of profiles in the Sunday papers, but a few spotlight questions, picking out specific things about people's lives, likes and dislikes, that sort of stuff. Talk about their values, talk about their culture, talk about their motivations. And again, this is a great way of making sites different. So our research shows that about 3/4 of websites have a team page, but only half of those have individual pages for each of the team members. And for me, again, it's another way, and you can almost create from this presentation the perfect website, and the perfect website that differentiates you from somebody else by doing all these things. But for me, it's a great way of differentiating and showcasing your guides. And remember, your guides are people who take your heroes, your clients, from A to B. Abby, something in the Q&A?
Yeah, so in terms of the team pages, if we are a small firm, should we include the other professionals who help and support us to show critical mass?
So I think you do it, but I don't necessarily think you do it to show critical mass. Yeah. Because as a potential client, what actually is important to me? Is the size of a firm important to me? Or would I maybe get put off by a big firm? Or is the fact that you can help me and you have the expertise to solve my problems more important? I think it's the latter. But I do think that some suspects might need a bit more reassurance if they think a firm is relatively small. So yes, let's say you're a sole planner with a power planner and an administrator, 3 people in the team, plus the office dog. 4. Yes, you'd showcase those in the way I've just spoken about, with the team page and then child pages or sub pages for each. But yes, if you then used a power planning firm, hello Michelle, hope you're okay. Put your link in the chat. If you used a compliance consultancy, a network, you were using EBI as your portfolio provider, whatever, then yes, I think there's an argument for doing that. But if you're going to do it, don't just slap the logos on of providers. Explain why they're important. Explain why they are part of a team. And if you go and look at Delaunay Wealth's website, that's a good example. Their trophies down the bottom there, when they won Best Website this year at Professional Advisor Awards. And Lloyd's sole practitioner, but has in lots of other people helping in his business. And we showcase those people on the website as well. So that was another really nice way of doing it. Rambling answer, short answer is yes. Abby, any more questions?
Oh, they're coming in thick and fast now. So you might be coming to this, I suspect you will be, but would you advise showing your typical fees on the website?
Give me 5 minutes and we'll do that one if that's okay.
Right, that's that one then. What are your thoughts on using a Q&A chatbot on your website? Is this needed?
I think that goes back to the calls to action question earlier. And we have, and there's 3 ways of doing this. First one is you do nothing. Second one is you put something like inquiry bot on the website, which is not chat, but it's a guided form essentially, where people can answer questions. And then ultimately it's give us your name and contact details and get in touch. So that's a guided form. Next level up is real-time chat functions. So a couple of things there. You need to make sure someone can monitor it on a regular basis, or remember to turn it off when you can't monitor it. Either the inquiry bot or the chat needs to automatically trigger. More people will use it if it automatically triggers rather than them having to trigger it individually themselves. And the number of people who will complete an inquiry bot or live chat is absolutely correlated to the number of people who visit your website. So the more people who visit your website, the more proportion of people who will complete it. But I do think this sort of stuff is going to have an increasingly bigger place. I needed to sort something with our CRM provider on Monday evening, out of hours. And I quite surprised myself because I wonder if they have a live chat bot or a live chat. It's the first time I've ever thought that, because normally I'd steer well away from them and try and pick up the phone, my preference. And it was quite an interesting moment to say, I wonder if they've got a live chat. Unfortunately, they did, but I couldn't make it work. So yes, I think you could consider those things. There's low cost, so you can try them, but within the context of what I've said. Any more, Abby, on the Q&A?
Couple more. Easy one. If your office has 3 dogs, page for each? It's got to be a yes, surely.
Yeah, why not?
And then in terms of team pages, again, what info would you include on them? I know you've covered a few bits, but they've just said role and experience. Anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. But we can go so much deeper than that. We can get so much more personal than just role and experience. And all the websites that Abby has been putting in the chat have examples of great team pages. But I would be talking about, so what's their role in the business? Who do they support? Talk about their wins in the work, what motivates them. Just get really, really personal. Contact details are important, pretty high up on the page, because someone might just want to get on that page and find the contact details for Darren or Lloyd or Michelle at ePowerPlan. We need contact details, and then get really personal what they do outside. Create that connection and good imagery as well. But the best way of answering that question is just go and look at some of the team pages we've created. Am I okay to move on, Abby? Cool. Right, stock images. Really, really try and avoid stock images. Now, I am very much like a reformed smoker on this. You will find websites that Yardstick have produced in the past where we've used some stock images. And you probably will in the future, because we might have got a bit of pushback from the client or something like that. But stock images, if you're going to use them, they've got to be really carefully chosen, because they're often cliched. You know, that happy couple walking along a beach. Yeah, I saw one yesterday of a couple dancing on the beach. Yeah? Another one yesterday of a couple dancing in a kitchen. I don't know what it is about 60-year-olds dancing in stock images, but it does seem to be quite popular at the moment. But they're often cliched. They're very difficult to get right, really difficult to get right, and you end up overthinking these things. And they are very, very unlikely to create a point of difference. And that's largely because it appears there are only so many stock models in the world, and a lot of them are on images on Shutterstock and Unsplash and places like that. So you often see the same images across different sites. So what I'd much prefer is that we carefully choose images. And the first bunch of images that I would be talking about, the first type of imagery, are firm-specific images. So images that are specific to your business. And I think there's three types here. The first type is you and your team. So individual shots of people in the business. Not 90 degrees facing the camera. We can do better than that. But nicely posed individual shots. I think then we have groups of people. So you might have your management team, you might have the advisors and planners, you might have power planners, the admin staff, you might have everyone together, but groups of people together. One of my favorite pictures there, again, if you go look at the Aspire website, look at the Why Choose Us page. It's a candid shot, they're all smiling, it's lovely, really lovely. Henwood Court, top of their website, really nice image as well. So individual shots, groups of people. One tip, if you're taking pictures of groups of people, anybody you're not sure about, you think might leave, stick them on the end, because they're easier to Photoshop out if they ever leave. But groups of people and individuals. Office scenes. So again, Smith & Wardle website, go and look at the About Us page. You've got a lovely picture of John having a bit of a laugh with one of the other team members. And that was just taken because the photographer wandered around after the individual photo shoot and took some really nice pictures, candid pictures of people working. It was brilliant, really lovely images. And then internal images and client meetings, or images of internal meetings and client meetings. Again, try not to pose them, but just get a photographer there for a day, half a day in your office. Once they've done the team shots and the group shots and individual shots, get them to wander around and also get them to take pictures of points of interest. You're in your office every day. Those points of interest won't necessarily become apparent to you, but awards on the wall, certificates on the wall, the office building. So put a picture of the office building on your contact page so people know where to go if they are coming to your office. I was in a meeting the other day with a planner, and they got some Carl Richards sketches on the wall. Take a picture of those. Talking of Carl Richards, go and have a look at the Chatfield private client site. Again, another point of difference, we animated one of Carl's sketches and put them on the website above the homepage. Really, really like that idea. So in terms of firm-specific images, your team, office scenes, and points of interest. And it is perfectly possible to build a website where, apart from the blog section, because it's difficult not to use stock images on blogs, but apart from the blog section, there are no stock images on the site whatsoever. I think that is really very, very achievable and is something that is desirable as well. Other types of imagery. Big fan of putting geographically specific photos on there. So let's say, for example, you wanted to work with clients within 5-mile radius of Nottingham city centre, which is where I am right now. To demonstrate that and to root yourself in the local area and create a connection with local people, you might have pictures of Trent Bridge, the Brian Clough statue, Major Oak, it's not within 5 miles, but the Goose Fair, there you go, Goose Fair. But geographically specific photos. Then there are some left field options, and you can get creative. The Carl Richards sketch being a good example. Website for a firm called Robertson Baxter, if you put that in as well, Abby, if that's okay. We went and did the discovery meeting with Robertson Baxter, who are up in Huddersfield, I think. And they've got some beautiful artwork. It was original art painted on glass. It's beautiful. And there's some examples of that on their website as well. We went to the artist, we got permission to use the images, and we've done that a couple of times for other firms. So think about some left field options. And then illustrations work well. Some of Carl's sketches are great, really, really good. Actually, all Carl's sketches are great. And we could use those on the site. So carefully chosen images to support your images of team, again, will make things different. Abby, anything we need to deal with right now?
Just a question about stock images. What about stock imagery to represent target demographic? For example, older people, or images of people sailing or sitting at a table in front of paperwork, a thing of the past?
No, I don't think they're a thing of the past, but I think they should be. Yeah, I think it's really difficult to get a stock image to resonate with a group of people. So my dad is 73. One of my heroes, Bruce Springsteen, is 73. You could not get 2 different 73-year-olds. Yeah. My dad, bless him, needs a hip operation. Bruce Springsteen's up on stage rocking it in front of 100,000 people. Yeah. Bit of a diverse example, but how do you find a stock image that resonates necessarily with both of those audiences, despite them being male and 73? So for me, it's really, really difficult on stock imagery. I challenge our designers and challenge other people. Let's try and come away as far as we can from stock images. I think it's hard on blogs, but I think it's possible on websites. Anything else, Abby, before we move on?
No, you can crack on.
Good. Right. Number 9, ratings and reviews. Ratings and reviews. So, as I've said quite a few times, testimonial pages on websites are entirely pointless. All the stats we see, all our research shows that only between 1% and 2% of all your website visitors will ever go and look at a testimonials page. And there's a few reasons for that, but let's just accept it. Instead, we need to gather social proof and scatter it around your website so that people see it wherever they go. We're not putting the social proof on one page and expecting people to visit it. We're scattering the social proof around so people see it wherever they go. Just look at social media. So Twitter now, I don't know if you've noticed, but they are now putting ads in places they weren't putting ads previously. And it's really difficult to tell an ad. It's got a really tiny little A and a D on it. Very, very tricky. And they're also putting ads, when you scroll down a specific person's timeline, they're putting ads in there as well. So what we need to do, social proof-wise on the website, is take a leaf out of the social media big boys and scatter your social proof around your website. And in terms of online ratings and reviews, Google and vouched for are our preference. We would always recommend 100% of firms have Google reviews and 99% of firms have vouched for reviews as well. Happy to explain why if someone wants to answer put that question in the chat. We now need to embed them properly. So add them, as I say, to the most popular pages. Use widget code where possible. So Vouched For will produce, give you widget code that you can embed in your site for firm reviews and individual advisor reviews. And you can also, in WordPress websites, add in the widget code for Google reviews. And then obviously include your Vouched For reviews in the form of widget code on your team member pages. And again, stats show why this makes firms different. 76% of firms have Google reviews. Slightly misleading stat, because most of that 76 have got 5 or fewer reviews. So while 76% of firms have Google reviews, most don't have very many. 53% of firms have got Vouched For reviews. 20% have got Glassdoor reviews. Most, as I said, don't have many reviews and don't display them correctly on their website. So if you do the ratings and review piece properly, you will differentiate yourself. Abby, anything in the Q&A?
No, we're all good.
We're all good, are we? Okay. Right, number 10, fees. So I said I'd come to this. Online fees, disclosing fees online. So for me, I think there are 3 reasons that you should consider, and I put it no more strongly than that, because there are pros and cons for online fee disclosure. But there are 3 reasons to consider online fee disclosure. The first is transparency and trust. All financial advisors, financial planners, want to be seen as trustworthy and transparent. Talked about the difference between telling and showing. Well, putting your fees online absolutely shows that you are transparent. It's a brilliant way of showing that you're transparent. It means there's fewer surprises for prospects. And it also potentially helps to select out some inquiries who are a bit fee conscious. You can make the opposite argument that actually those people, once they understood fees and you had a conversation with them face-to-face, will be okay. But it is a way of standing out as well. So the research we've done shows that about a quarter of firms, 23%, of websites, firms' websites mention fees. That's up from 17% in 2018. But only about 1 in 10 actually disclose the fees online. And there's a way of doing this right. We've got an online fee disclosure scorecard. Abby, if we can put a link for that in the follow-up notes, that'd be great. But only about 1 in 10 firms actually disclose pounds, shillings, and pence fees that someone will pay. And half of those do it the wrong way. They just simply slap a PDF of the client agreement on there and expect their website visitors to scroll through a PDF of a client agreement, and they're just never going to do it. So fee disclosure, it will set you apart, and most people who do it are not doing it properly. So pays your money, takes your choice, decide whether that one's for you or not. So that's it. There are 10 ways, and we've got a couple of questions which we'll deal with in a second. 10 ways which will make your website stand out and be different. As I said at the start, great design is so important, but it's only going to get you so far. You also need to add in real people, your heroes and your guides, social proof, online ratings, reviews, videos, client survey results, which we've not talked about today. Perfect pros. I'll chat with Adam and Eleanor who are on here. Fantastic photography, really good quality photography of the people in your business, your clients, and then an environmental shoot of the office and everything around. And maybe, if you decide to do it, pros and cons, but your fees. So we'll do a couple of questions in a minute. I can see them coming in. Just want to talk about the next webinar that we're doing. So we've never done this before, but it's a topic we are talking more and more about and getting more and more vocal about. How to boost growth and cut costs by improving your conversion rates. Really, really important that marketing isn't only seen in the context of creating new inquiries. And we've spoken to firms over the past week. Got one firm that's converting about 48% of all inquiries, another one converting about 6% of all inquiries. The one that is converting 48% have lower marketing costs and are operationally more efficient. So that's one of the reasons we're going to talk about conversion rates. The other is almost nobody else is talking about it. So we're going to talk about conversion rates at our next webinar. Abby, if you could just drop the link in there for people to sign up. If you want to stay in touch with me, there's a Yardstick website there, my LinkedIn, etc., etc. And I think there might be one or two questions to deal with, Abby.
Yeah, we'll do the couple on fees pages, and then we just need to drop back to number 9 for one of them. But in terms of fees, are we not compelled to display fees because of the interpretation of Consumer Duty?
I have seen nothing to say that you are compelled to display fees. If there's something in Consumer Duty that says you are compelled to display, assuming you're a UK-based advisor, start with, I've seen nothing in Consumer Duty to say that you are compelled to disclose fees. If there is, then I can think of a bunch of compliance departments that have missed it because they've checked websites of ours since Consumer Duty came in. So no, I don't think there is, but happy to be told otherwise if there's somebody with greater expertise on the call.
Lovely. Very broadly, what would the cost be for creating a website from scratch and the typical timescale? And I know Josh is on the call and he will be shuddering, I imagine.
About 2 weeks and a couple of quid. No, it entirely depends on a whole number of variables. The scope of the website, the amount of social proof we need to produce, the number of people on the website, the responsiveness of the client. There's just a whole bunch of things that need to be taken into consideration. So it is very, very firm specific. What I would say is whoever asked that question, if you reach out direct to me, this is not a plea for a sales call, but if you reach out directly to me, I'll be able to give you a much better idea of how to do that and how long it might take.
Right, and then the last one, if you can just drop back to reason number 9, just as you said, any questions? And we said no and moved on. Somebody popped in to say, do you have a good example of this?
Oh, yeah. So go and look at the Smith & Wardle website. I keep talking about that. But all the ones we've talked about so far, this stuff will be on there. From memory, Smith & Wardle and Delaney Wealth, sorry. Have got vouched for reviews on there. Certainly Hemel Court has got the Google review widget embedded in there. So they'll be on the other sites that we've talked about. So yeah, go and have a look at those. And then
good.
We good?
We are, with a minute to spare. If anybody's got any final burning thoughts.
I can just see one from James. Some review sites require annual validation of each review, which frustrates advisors. Have you recommended the ones that don't require this? Yes, James, as far as I'm aware. I've seen some compliance providers say to their clients or the firms that they work with that testimonials need to be checked once a year to make sure the client's still happy to use it. But in terms of vouched for and Google, which are the 2 review sites that we would recommend, Google 100% of the time, vouched for 99% of the time. There is nothing there that means you have to go back to your clients each year and say, please confirm that you're happy for this review to remain live, which hopefully puts your mind at ease, James. Right, any more? If there's any more questions, happy to stick around and answer them. Otherwise, there is my contact details if you want to get in touch. Council Alf Bells from Nottingham Marine. It's 11 o'clock. We've finished smack on time, which is unusual for us. So if everybody's happy, we shall leave you to it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
See you later.